But later on today, we are going to be all ears, not because of stocks, but because all of us have an interest in this. Telecom regulator TRAI is planning to issue the much-awaited recommendations on net neutrality, a move that is likely to impact the future of apps that provide calling and messaging services. Why only apps? It'll determine how we entertain ourselves on our phone. Kritika Saxena is joining us with more on this. Kritika, what can we expect in terms of recommendations?
A 2-year-long debate is expected to come to some kind of closure today. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India will be coming out with its recommendations for net neutrality. So the final policy on the norms will not be coming in. Once they come back with a recommendation, they will be submitting it to the DOT, and the Department of Telecom has to give its final approval. There could be some kind of to and fro here and there, some kind of objections raised, but yes, net, we are expecting clarity today. What are the recommendations expected to be? There has been a lot of debate, but broadly we are expecting a clarity as far as the definition of net neutrality is concerned, the broad contours of net neutrality. We are expecting the TRAI to introduce some form of network management, some form of traffic management practices which net neutrality must have, which OTT players must adhere to, and we are expecting them to outline norms to enable the prioritization of critical services like welfare scheme, or in the case of emergency services, etc. Now, so far, what have the telecom service providers like the Idea, Vodafone, Bharti Airtel of the world been saying? They say that OTT players have been making a dent in their revenue and they should be regulated. The calls and services and any kind of service that is provided by OTT players must be brought to a level playing field with the TSPs, and a penalty must be imposed if at all that is violated. On the other hand, OTT players like WhatsApp, Skype, Vibers of the world say that there should be a level playing field. The right to internet access cannot be regulated according to them, and that they should have the right to freely offer their services based on their guidelines and regulations. So there has to be a balancing act that TRAI will probably look at bringing in. What we are expecting is that the in-flight connectivity norms, which were also expected to come in along with this, will take another 10 more days. But yes, the final clarity on net neutrality and which way the government is going to bend will be clear today.
Okay, that's Kritika with the lowdown. An important day lined up ahead with respect to what the TRAI says. Well, coming back to a couple of interesting developments within the market, HDFC Mutual Fund has come out with the HDFC Housing Opportunities Fund that focuses on the housing theme and the opportunities that it offers in various sectors, related sectors, that is, including paint, cement, electricals, and so on. Srinivas Rao Ravipuri, Senior Fund Manager at HDFC AMC, is now with us. Mr. Rao, good to have you in our studio. So, interesting concept at a time when housing finance and housing finance providers have been the darlings of the market. So first simple question, why now? Some would say that isn't it a little too late considering the stocks have already run up so much?
Well, this fund is not about investing in housing finance company. This is a much broader theme. We are saying this is a housing opportunities fund. So where we would like to invest across the value chain, whether it is the housing finance company, steel companies, cement company, plywood companies, paint companies. So this is not a one sector, this is a broader theme. And within that, we think the affordable housing is the one which we are betting most on. And that's where in the last 3 months, 6 months, we are seeing a very good traction. I think that is where we think this is a good time.
Okay, Srinivas, good morning. Good
morning.
You know, even within that, ceramic stocks have had a huge run. You know, the housing finance, of course, we all know has had a run. All these paint companies. Have you decided initially how much money will go in, you know, particular subsectors, or would it be dynamic?
It will be dynamic. You know, what we've done is we actually created an index for this fund. You know, whenever we launch a fund, we need to have a relevant benchmark. So there was no relevant benchmark. So along with NSE, we created a new index called India Housing and Business Allied Index.
Okay. Is there on the NSE as well?
Yeah, it will be there on the NSE and our website also. So it's been customized for us. So if you see the breakup of that index, we have 14 sectors. Banks is about 20%, cement is about 16%, steel is about 13%, construction is about 12%, then real estate is about 5%, then paints. So it is across these sectors. Of course, this is what the weightage of the index. So this will be actively managed funds. So obviously, my weightage would be different. So this is a broad spectrum rather than a building products. Again, I agree. Stocks have run up a lot and valuations are no longer cheap. But we are saying, we would like to play it through a broader theme rather than any one or two sectors.
You have banks, not housing finance companies.
We have housing finance also. See,
The
SBI.
weightage is, how is it? Weightage for banks and housing finance?
Yeah, banks is 20%, housing finance is 14%.
But that is in the index. And as you're saying, this is an actively managed fund. You are going to ascribe different weights. You will pick and choose as per your liking.
True.
So what's the bent of mind right now for you in terms of the weights you would want to give to these different components?
Housing finance, again, I'm a little bit worried because valuations are again not attractive. Building products, again, a segment that is quite demanding. So I think we will see as we go forward. We have about 3 months to deploy the money. So few segments are expensive, but I think that makes our jobs more challenging, but we'll do it.
NSE did that index sitting with you. I mean, that's a little unfair, isn't it? They can't customize it to your taste.
See, when we wanted to do a product like this, we said, we would like to have an index that is relevant to this
That could be a
theme.
benchmark, yeah.
And that is when, okay, this is a theme. So then you can see everyone can say that, we can create indexes.
Whether you can outperform this new housing index or not, I guess,
Index is in a public domain. Everyone can see what are the weightages.
No, of course, it has to be.
So
but I'm just saying, how can they take your inputs into the
No,
creation
we said
of
we
an
wanted an index which reflects this theme. And finally, they will do what they want to do.
Okay.
For example, I manage HDFC.
Okay, you only tell them reflecting the theme.
Yes,
and
yes.
it's put together by them.
Correct. For example, I manage HDFC Infrastructure Fund. And there is an infrastructure index of NSE in which L&T is 30% weightage. And Airtel is about 15% weightage. Whereas as a mutual fund manager, I can't buy more than 10% in individual stock. Right? So then I'm saying that to that extent it is not relevant for me. As a fund manager, I can buy maximum of 10%, whereas index has 30% weightage to one stock.
So coming back to the point that fair, NSE will ascribe whatever weights they want to ascribe to the constituents of this new housing index. What are you most bullish on? And you acknowledge that a lot of the pockets, building materials, housing finance companies have already run up. So where do you see the next kicker?
We see construction as an interesting space, construction companies, then banks, and then
when
cement.
you say construction companies, what do you mean? I mean, construction is sort of a slightly looser term that could include road operators, etc. So in a housing sense, when you say construction, do you mean developers, real estate developers?
No, companies actually build houses, whereas a developer also owns lands and sells it. I'm talking about the guys who actually do construction. I think that's an interesting space, because in the affordable space, housing space, what you need is someone who actually can build in timely manner and a scale, not building 100 or 2,000 units, but 10,000, 20,000 units in the next 12 months, 18 months. I think that is where it's going to be an interesting opportunity.
Okay. It's got a lock-in.
3-year lock-in fund, yeah.
Okay. No, I'll tell you where my discomfort comes from. In the heyday of infrastructure, maybe 2004 or 5, I don't remember, I got into a infrastructure fund with a lock-in. And it made sense because infrastructure projects will take time to come up.
Yeah.
And by the time the lock-in opened, I was seriously out of money. So, I mean, what happens? Now housing boom and housing material all look very good. 3 years down the line, we don't know. It is quite possible that there is an IT boom. You will be constrained. No, you can't take out the money.
Well, two parts to that question. One is, it is true, it is a lock-in, and to that extent, one can say that it is a disadvantage. But when we are doing a fund, we are also clear that I need to have some time for fund to deliver. That's where we said we need gestation period, that is 3 years. Coming to your concerns, we have two provisions in it. One is this is not a 100% equity product. We also can invest up to 10 to 20% in debt. Okay. Two is
any debt?
Any debt.
Achha, but means even Government of India?
No, we are saying corporate debt, corporate papers, right? And number two is we are also taking an enabling provisioning for buying a put option.
Okay.
We are saying that, if we think that markets have rallied out or the fund has done very well, we can also go and buy a put option to partly lock in our gains. So I think those two things can address your concern on the lock-in.
This is lock-in because does it enjoy the ELSS advantage? No.
No, there is no tax advantage.
There is no tax advantage.
Yes.
Okay.
What would be the corpus that you're planning in terms of the money initially, and is there any size that you have in mind?
No, we don't have a number to tell everyone. We think response has been pretty good, so we are looking at very good numbers. We'll close the fund on 30th.
Okay. How much have you generated already, demand?
I don't think we wait for 3 days. You will see the number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Srinivas, again, let me come with my discomfort. I have a lot of HDFC funds. Let me put that as a disclosure. My sense is that it has always so far in my 14 years of investing in mutual funds, my discovery has been giving the fund manager complete freedom, even between equities and debt, has worked. Because you really don't know which is the next sector that will do well.
Yeah.
But in your case, you'll already have those kinds of funds. I mean, extremely well-performing funds under Prashant Jain. So is that why, because of the new SEBI rules, you all are forced to give sector categories? Because you all can't launch another fund like the, like the repertoire you already have?
No, not really. Actually, even under the new rule, SEBI clearly says we can do thematic funds.
Yeah.
So this is a thematic fund. So we are extremely positive on the outlook for housing sector. Okay. In diversified equity funds, most of our funds are diversified fund except the infra fund, which is one thematic fund we have. So, even if you like particular thing, there are restrictions in terms of how much overweight, underweight you can be. Okay. So, whereas here, if you like this theme, we can, as per SEBI again, if it is a thematic fund, 80% of the investments have to be in that theme. So, we are giving an opportunity for investor who is interested, who like this space, to take a meaningful exposure to the sector.
Okay.
So they say a diversified equity fund should typically give you at least 15% over a 3 to 4 year horizon. Concentrated risk in terms of sectors, then what sort of a performance benchmark are you setting for yourself with this fund?
No, I think 15% is the expectation when FD rates were 10-11%. When FD rate is at 6%, I think the expectations have to be lower, point number one. Point number two, we are saying that this is a mix of equity and debt. So we will have 10-20% debt also. So I think it should be compared with a balanced fund, not with a pure diversified equity fund.
All right, fair point, Srinivas. Thanks a lot for your time.
Great. Thank you.
With managing
All
this
the very
fund.
best.
Okay, the market, by the way, is once again showing some signs of weakness at index level, but mid caps are doing well, and a lot of stocks are looking good right now. Good time to invite our guests back. Ashwini Gujral, Mitesh Thakkar are with us, and Prakash Kaba as well. Ashwini, thoughts on the index first, because there's no sharp rally that we are seeing, no follow through. How would you approach the index, and of course your individual calls?
See, the way I look at this is that the bears are trying to beat the market down and they are not getting traction. So, once they fail, chances are that everybody who's gone short in the morning will need to cover. And today, housing finance is back. So, those are stocks which are coming off the lows. So, certain themes are kind of keeping the market steady. But this is the sort of decline that you want to buy into the market. The bank Nifty is almost at about 25,900. It's holding on to most of the morning's gains since morning's low. And also on the Nifty, we are not breaking significant intraday supports. Nifty futures, that level is 10,380. So given that first half an hour, we've not been able to break down. Chances are if there is a bit of improvement globally, again you will have something similar to yesterday. So the idea remains that you buy into this decline and then hope that at some point the market turns on the upside. Mid caps are already in the positive. So hardly it's some large cap stocks which are keeping pressure on the market. As far as individual stocks are concerned, Tata Global is a buy with a stop of 280, target of 294. IGL is a buy with a stop of 322, target of 338, and UPL is a buy with a stop of 760, target of 785. I think housing finance and gas related plays seem to be the theme for the day.
Okay. So Tata Global, Ashwini, do you reckon the correction or consolidation rather is over?
See, it's a momentum stock. Now, it will not consolidate in any sort of fancy manner. So that way, this is for the different sort of player. Anybody who wants to look at, great risk reward, etc. and corrections probably needs to look at housing finance.
Okay. Mitesh, good morning to you again. What are you trading?
Yeah. So I also have IGL on my list. I think clearly the kind of breakout it's showing beyond the levels of 323, 325 is important. And now it's a buy with a stop at 319 for targets of 345. And NCC and HCC are doing well as well, and I picked up HCC as my stock trading idea for the day. It's a buy with a stop at 38 and look for 41.5 as the target.
Prakash, your stocks?
I think I'll go with two stocks. Godfrey Phillips bounced from a very strong support, psychological support of 1,000. I think it's climbing to levels closer to 1,040 zones. So stop below 1,000. I think 1,000 should hold. And IRB Infra certainly is looking good to me. It's seen a good base formation here. A move seems to have started here. We can see a target of around 242 zones. May take a day or two for that. Stop below 230 on IRB should be fine.
Okay, let's just pull out the intraday chart of Dalmia Bharat. That stock had a huge breakout yesterday, and look at the chart today as well.
This is Dalmia Bharat Sugar.
Dalmia Bharat Cement. I mean, it's a cement stock. The name of the company is Dalmia Bharat, 3,200 rupee stock. Let's just pull out the stock, Dalmia Bharat. Ashwini, thoughts here?
It's been continuously making fresh highs. So I don't think there's a great entry right now. But if it's a cement stock, it's probably outperforming all the rest. I think more upside should be ahead.
Okay, Ashwini, I know that in the past you have not favored the stock, but Tata Power is just up and away. Now, is there a view or a trade left?
I think it was yesterday's closing bell call.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
But,
all right.
Yeah, Ashwini.
Yeah, an update today?
Yeah.
No, still it's, yes, it is breaking out in a sense, but, you would like this to get past some sort of significant zone, say like 118, 120, because these sort of rallies have happened. Imagine if you buy here and falls back to 80, it's kind of, infrastructure is picking up overall. But I think there are better infrastructure and better power stocks that you can get into. Maybe Torrent Power is a better stock.
Okay. The other stock I wanted to ask you was Rain Industries. I mean, that's again showing gains, one of the big gainer this month. How would you trade that one?
See, Rain Industry is in a fairly strong momentum, but, obviously these declines should be bought. I think at some point it should get back to 400. So now your stop really is 290. But again, the caveat is if situation suddenly changes, you will not be able to get out of these stocks.
Okay, so Ashwini, but for the day, the big call still remains IGL. In fact, as we speak, it's another intraday breakout on that stock and up almost 6% now.
See, bull market stock coming out of consolidation, big upgrade, etc., etc. That is a perfect fuel for stock moving up. But the way infra stocks are moving up, like HCC, NCC, etc., I think infra could also have a good day, similar to your wire stocks, etc. All the infra providers seem to be picking up. So that's where, the bull market is moving in terms of, moving from consumption into capex-driven stocks.
Okay. Well, I have another stock which I've been repeatedly wanting to ask. It behaves like Rain Industries only, Bhansali Engineering. I mean, there's no stopping that stock. What kind of a vertical movement is this? 20 rupees about 6 months back, and today it is 180 rupees. I'm going to ask which of you tracks the stock. Mitesh, do you?
I used to, Lata. I think I've tracked BEPL earlier as well, and now I think it's kind of exceeded all the targets which I thought. I thought it will possibly head towards 90 to 100 range when it broke out above that 45-50 zone. But I don't have a view right now, so in that sense, I think the trend is still going up.
Okay. What about you, Ashwini?
See, it's pretty much, I think it started, in March, and since March it's been rising up. Possibly it is something to do with China, because all these China-related stocks started in March and April.
Okay.
So, that story can continue to move stocks to infinity.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, we'll touch base with you yet again on the hour. Thank you very much for joining us. For the moment, we have to look at another stock that has done very well, which is the Bharat 22 ETF, has listed on the exchanges at a 3% premium. Nimesh Shah, Manager and CEO of ICICI Pru, joins in now. Good morning, Nimesh. Well, great listing, but hereafter, post-listing, what kind of returns can investors expect?
I think for the whole benefit to play out for the government companies, there is a PE expansion as well as the EPS expansion that we are talking about. The PE expansion essentially happens from the way the companies will be re-rated. People will say this government has been managing the public sector in a very different way, and I think it is bringing their bottom lines will be in place. So I think the benefits to come out from this investment will accrue over the next 3 to 5 years. So I would urge investors that this is a 5-year call that you have taken on those companies, and the real benefit will come if you hold on these companies for 3 to 5 years.
Nimesh, good morning. There's been a rapid growth, of course, in the ETF space over the last 1 or 2 years. Do you expect this trend to continue?
There are two things. We believe that the ETF business will be a strong business, say 3 to 5 years down the line, as more and the kind of advisory that will change in India. I think ETF will be a good business 3 to 5 years down the line. We are building, we have to get people used to invest in ETF. This is our initiative at ICICI Prudential of people getting people used to and making popular. And somewhere ETF will also come with a smart beta variant. In India, I feel the way active fund management is there, we will leapfrog into smart betas quite well. So even in this index, to a certain extent, every March we are going to rebalance the portfolio. So it's not only passive. With the passive ETF, there is some element of active involvement. So what we call as smart beta, I think India has got a great smart beta opportunity in the next 3 years. And that I don't expect to wait for them. We will launch some of the smart beta initiatives which will decrease risk in a customer's portfolio in the near future itself.
Okay. Well, one of the big reasons for the success for even the Bharat ETF is this huge retail participation. Flows have been so strong. Do you think this trend can continue?
The domestic flows have been traveling across the country in the B towns, etc. And the flows, I am very heartened by the quality of flows. Every month, the average keeps on going down, which indicates there is more of retail coming into it on a consistent basis. Only thing that we do when we go across the town, we ask people to be careful because it is not the 2013 market. It is slightly expensive market. So people need to be conscious what they are coming at. As a company, almost more than 60% of our inflows we are getting in balance or some kind of hybrid funds where there is a mix of equity and debt. So as a company, we have been cautioning investors as the prices are going up, as the markets are going up. We are cautioning investors more and more that be careful, it is not the market of 2013, it is a market of 2017 where it is not a cheap market. Right, that's what we have continuously. With the last 8 months, markets going in one direction, people have forgotten that there is a risk in the equity markets. People are investing as if there is no risk in the equity market. So continuously we, and through your channels, etc., we need to remind people continuously, especially retail investors, that there is risk, and as the markets go expensive, the risk only increases.
Yes, Nimesh, couldn't agree more. It's always important to keep in mind the nature of the asset class. You can lose some money if there's volatility. But having said that, apart from valuations, do you see any other risks? What are the key risks according to you?
See, very, very difficult to predict. I don't know when it will happen, what will happen, but I know it is slightly, markets are slightly expensive. The silver lining is that earning per shares are expected to increase in the next 1.5 years. So with the good positive 1.5 to 2 years that we expect as far earning cycle is concerned, that's the positive part of it. But which global factor or which Indian factor, maybe a taxation issue or whatever can come up in the next 6 months, that is one cannot predict that at all.
Well, your discomfort with valuations is a little disconcerting. How should investors approach equity markets then at current levels?
They should be cautious. They should not be unduly bold, and either go for value indexes like this Bharat 22 or get into hybrid funds which we call the balance advantage funds, which are a mix of equity and debt, and dynamically allocate between equity and debt. Today the equity allocation can be relatively smaller in those funds, but if the market's correct, there is a potential that these funds can buy. So go into those dynamically managed balance advantage funds.
Okay, Nimesh, thanks a lot for your time today. That's Bharat 22 ETF, already making money on that one. Of course, PSU stocks have done well. Really turning out to be once again a good day for the mid caps. And I think look at the way Indiabulls real estate has rallied from the low point. You're talking about, luxury homes, Indiabulls real estate would really represent that. That's the market that we have right now. Real estate is in a bull market. There was a negative news or perceived negative news. Straight away at open, there's buying that's not only filled the gap, but actually the stocks have moved to the high point. So that stock, of course, is doing well. But of course, the space to track remains the gas stocks. So Mahanagar Gas and Gujarat Gas have also moved to high point at this point in time. Well, good going for the market. Biocon is the stock that's participating in the run now. Just see the intraday chart of that stock looking good at the high point of the day. But let's talk about commodity market opening then. Manisha is here for that. Manisha, good morning.
Morning, Anuj, and thank you for that. But it's a complete profit-taking that we've seen emerging in case of the commodity markets as Indian prices open here. We were talking about the crude oil prices and how that one has come off its 2-year highs as markets watch out for the OPEC meeting, where the expectation is that Russia hasn't really made its stance clear on whether or not they are in for extension of output cuts. That's taken them some premium off. And apart from that, the supply concerns between Canada and US seem to be getting resolved. Markets also are seeing some profit-taking after those net long positions hitting record highs. So all of that working its way in prices. The gold and silver prices have also come off its highs. We did see the New York session actually do quite well because of the weakness in US dollar. You also are looking at the Asian buying picking up. But then yet again, $1,300 per ounce in the global markets has not been able to hold on. And we have come off those 6-week highs that the markets hit in the New York session yesterday. The base metal price is also going the same way. Yesterday was a bad day and today it's only getting worse when it comes to this sector. The ferrous metals are doing good. So when you look at the steel and the iron ore prices in Shanghai, that is working in the positive, but most of the non-ferrous space has opened in the negative. One, of course, is China crackdown on the shadow banking. Financial curbs have been coming in. The debt on the infrastructure has been increasing, which China is trying to keep a curb or a handle on, and that hasn't worked so well. Apart from that, the US PMI numbers came in also on the negative side, and you have seen some profit taking anyways after those kind of gains that we saw in the month of October. And the expectation is that you will continue to see this volatility in a very range bound levels until the year end. So that's exactly what we are witnessing right now. Nearly a percentage point and more of a decline is what we are seeing in this sector as well. Trading strategies, and we have them from Angel Commodities. They have a buy call though in a couple of commodities. Gold prices they expect to gain or surge in the intraday markets. 29,600 is what they are expecting on that. And the other one, of course, is natural gas. That commodity has been doing quite well. We saw 4% gains yesterday, and they estimate further buying with 200 rupees per MMBTU of a target for the intraday space today.
Markets in fine fettle, but for a little bit of red on the big indices. Mid-caps are making up for it, but one stock that, of course, never fades away from the limelight is Ashok Leyland, now in focus after the company extended their deal with Japan's Hino Motors, where Ashok Leyland will utilize Hino's engine technology for their Euro 6 development. Vinod Dasari, Managing Director and CEO, Ashok Leyland, joins us now. Good morning, Mr. Dasari. Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, by when do you expect to be completely Euro 6 compliant, and does that come at a higher cost? If yes, how much higher? How much does it disturb margins?
Well, we already showed a Euro 6 vehicle as a proto at an Auto Expo about a year or so ago. So we are ready with Euro 6 technology. We even started exporting some Euro 6 equivalent engines to United States. So we are compliant and we know the engine technology. But to test Euro 6 in India, you still need fuel availability and all that. So that is going to take a long time. And to make an entire range of Euro 6 vehicles will take us some more time. We will be ready by April 2020. We will be completely ready. But so what happened here, Lata, is that, you know, originally go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
You go ahead. Okay. So I was saying originally, as you know, Ashok Leyland and Hino had a partnership many years ago or decades ago, where they gave us technology for Euro 0 type of engines. And they didn't think we could not much could be done from it. Since then we took it to Euro 1, Euro 2, Euro 3 and Euro 4, and they saw that we were the only ones in the world who were able to take a Euro 3 engine and make it with an inline pump. And then when the Euro 4 came about, we were the only ones in the world to make it with an intelligent EGR system. So they were very interested to say, how can Ashok Leyland be so innovative and also have the lowest cost per horsepower for an engine? So they came to us and said, look, we have a Euro 6 engine. Can you please look at it and help us reduce the costs of Euro 6? So we looked at it. We also found that the engine had an interesting 4-valve design. So we said, we will be happy to help you. We are also developing, upgrading our Euro 4 engines to Euro 6. And here's what we are doing. We have very good, respectable mutual relationship with them. They said, okay, we don't have a Euro 6 6-cylinder engine. How about we develop it together? So that's how it started. And we said, great, we'll renew the old partnership again. They already have a 4-cylinder Euro 6 engine that they are selling in different parts of the world. We will help that become more competitive. And we will together develop a 6-cylinder engine. They won't compete in India, we won't compete in Japan, and it's a mutual relationship. So suddenly Ashok Leyland not only has its own set of engines, but also has a safety net of proven Hino world-class engines, which we will together make them to be much more competitive. So we are very excited about this partnership because, you know, everybody was worried whether we'll have Euro 6 or not. We already had, but with this, it's even 100% sure now.
So there's no royalty that you need to pay to Hino. What would the cost at all be to get into Euro 6, your development cost?
Well, development cost of the engine will anyway be there, which we are part and parcel of the regular development. As far as the ongoing royalty, yes, we will pay them a minor royalty, and they would pay us for a royalty for parts that we have developed and we are exporting from India. So net there is no impact.
Okay, Mr. Dasari, good morning. I know this is not the platform maybe to talk about quarter-to-quarter performance, but I just wanted thoughts on your overall margin picture, because last quarter the market was a bit disappointed by that.
Well, we were the only commercial vehicle company that had double-digit operating margins. We've had double-digit operating margins
but it fell year on year by a good 1%.
Yeah, last year in the first quarter, the first half of last year, or during the second quarter of last year, we had two interesting things. One, we had very heavy project orders from exports which were at very high margins. And second, we had a one-time huge impact of VFJ, Vehicle Factory Jabalpur, where we had a price correction pending for the last 6 years, which was paid in one shot. So that gave us a huge bonus. So those two added to nearly about 150 crores. So if you take those two out, our margin performance was not only as good as the previous year second quarter, but actually slightly better.
So, Mr. Dasari, sir, morning.
I know it was to explain this to the market, but
yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Go ahead. I was saying that these one-time things that we had last year are difficult to explain to the market. Market continues to expect us to perform better, and we will continue to perform better. We are focused on our margins. Our market share, even though it has come down a bit compared to last June or this June, we are still higher overall than previous year and continue to show good double-digit operating margin.
So actually, let me take a follow-up question on the margin, since you explained to us the anomaly in the base quarter, Q2 last year. For the year as a whole, what sort of a margin band are you confident of achieving?
I don't like to give out future projections like this, but we have always targeting double-digit operating margins and will continue to focus on that.
Okay, so then let me talk about demand, sir. Because, June onwards, the monthly numbers were looking very, very good, anywhere between 11,000 to about, 13,000 units. In 1 month, I think it was September, it was even higher. How strong are the truck demand trends now that we're in the second half of the year and, GST is here and people keep talking about heavy tonnage and more movement of goods?
I think the demand is very strong. Combination of post GST, the GDP is coming back and it's doing well. The tonnage has gone up. The construction, road construction and infrastructure is doing very well. So all in all, I feel the demand is very strong.
Okay. No, I'll tell you where this doubt is coming from.
Today we are actually constrained for capacity, I think, in certain models.
Oh, That's very good to hear. That actually answers the question I was going to ask you. You know, going by your August and September run rate, the volume that you put out in October was less. So is that just you know, an averaging, a monthly adjustment, or fewer working days perhaps in October because of the festivals? Should we expect you to resume a 13 to 15,000 run rate pretty quickly?
Well, the run rate will be at that. It's just that we are in holiday period, as you know, Lata. October had a lot of holidays. November had a couple of breaks also. So we are running pretty good right now, and the run rate is, as you say, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay, capacity utilization, you touched on that and you said you're running out of capacity on certain models. So is there any capex plan? And if you can give us a little more color on capacity utilization as a whole and in specific models.
Well, in specific models, Lata, I'll tell you that on the 37 ton, if you know that the vehicle that we introduced, it's the world's first 5-axle rigid truck, and it's doing exceptionally well. We used to make about 200 of these in April, and the demand is as high as 3,000 now. So in a matter of 6 months, the volume has just shot up. So the capacity constraints is not internal to Ashok Leyland. We have the capacity to make more vehicles. It's just that on a specific model like this, there are certain components that are not available, and we are resolving through air freighting material and all that, minor things that you have to do when there is a production capacity constraint. We'll get over it, but you know, it's always painful to see that when there is demand, you wish you had more and more capacity. But this is one model where we are struggling to make. But that helps us get more pricing, I guess.
So overall, if you could give us a sense of the utilization level that you're working on, overall capacity?
Overall would be around 70–75%.
So time to do some capex in that case?
No, time to improve productivity. I don't like to just invest in capex, that's easy. Okay. We focus on return on capital employed. We try to maintain one of the world's highest ROCE for commercial vehicle companies. We try to focus on north of 25%. And it's not just improving the top line of return, but it's also controlling the capital employed, right?
Okay. No, it's good to hear that. It's just that if you are talking about capex, then we will have to assume the Indian economy growth on a different trajectory altogether. So that's why I was asking you, not from a personal point of view at all. Mr. Dasari, it's always a pleasure having you with us. Thank you very much for joining us today.
No, the capex that we will do.
Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you very much, Lat. So I was going to say that the capex and spend that our focus is right now is more on developing the Euro 6, getting all the models going on and all that. The government unfortunately has come up with something called heavy duty fuel economy, which we all have to meet by April, which I find quite rather frivolous and redundant, because an industry that competes on fuel economy, why do you want to regulate that? And if you want to regulate something else like scrappage or something of vehicles. And we will spend more on electric vehicles, but that's a subject of another discussion. There will be capex in that sector, but we will use some other time for that.
Oh, but is that coming soon? I mean, that's of much interest, because the government wants to change a lot of its vehicles into electric. The rules may come quickly even in other sectors, you never know. If you can very briefly tell us, what is the EV plan?
Oh, we have, like I said, we have three-pronged strategy. We are working very well on it. We have a battery swap strategy, we have a flash charge strategy, and we have a fast charge strategy. So we're working very well with battery companies, motor companies, gearboxes, electronics, all of that. We have a very distinct plan, as distinct from the Euro 6. So it's rather ironic that on one hand we will be working feverishly to develop a vehicle that will be Euro 6 compliant globally, and then equally working on another platform which will completely obsolete this. But that's the nature of the game, and we will. We have two separate teams working feverishly at that, and we have to make sure that we are truly world class, not only in Euro 6 but also on the electric vehicle. So, but we could talk much more about the detail of the technology there, but we are very confident of our electric vehicle technology.
Oh yes, that of course will require a special discussion, Mr. Desale. Thanks a lot for your time today, and wish you luck for all your endeavors. So by the way, the market as we leave and Bazaar is at the high point, and just keep an eye on the HDFC twins. Both HDFC and HDFC Bank have moved to high point of the day, and that really